RedZoneSports.bet, the British home of American sports.
Hello boys and girls, and welcome to the SportsHeads, the movable feast of talking heads, talking about the NFL each week. Week 14 is approaching, but we're going to have a quick look back at some of the news items this week, and we're going to start with the New York Giants. But first of all, let me introduce you to the gang. I'm Simon Millen from Lindy's Sports. With me, Cecil Martin, former fullback for the Philadelphia Eagles, Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Oakland Raiders. And spread out wide, we have Tom Like from InsideZone.com, great website, and keeps you informed of what's going to happen in the NFL upcoming. It's a great site, check it out. We're going to start with the Giants, lads. Obviously, they've dispensed with Ben McAdoo after they got beaten by your Raiders, 24-17. They've also got rid of Jerry Reese, the general manager, on the Monday. First, is it the right decision, and are you surprised by the timing?
Right decision. All right, I'm going to reserve an answer on that one. Timing-wise, I got to say yes. Now, I was surprised at the general manager being taken down because he's been there since 1994. I mean, he's been a staple of that organization, and obviously, he's like family to the ownership. So I believe that part of his firing was that he went to bat for McAdoo so hard, so strong, and I think at the end of the day, they just looked at the entire situation and said, we need to make a clean sweep of it all. And knowing that Steve Spagnuolo, who's a former head coach, was their defensive coordinator when they won the Super Bowl in 2007, and they know he can take the reins, and I bet in the back of their mind, if there's someone who can take over even more long-term, he's on their list. So they knew they had a backup person to come in and hopefully clean some things up.
It's a lot to do with stability, isn't it? I think they've got that continuity now. They've got someone they know. Tom, I mean, it's an ideal position for a coach coming in, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the New York Giants is one of the most coveted positions in not just in NFL, but the whole of sports. You've got a very stable organization there. The owners, they add legitimacy to the job. Great location. I mean, it's the first time they've fired someone in season since 1976. So they're not going to give you 1 or 2 year crummy contracts. And there's a lot of pieces there to build around. They've got Eli Manning if he's there by the end of the season. Then you've got Odell Beckham. A few pieces on defense. It's an attractive job for maybe a young coordinator who's looking, or someone even from the college ranks who wants to make a name for themselves in the NFL. I think it is a very, very attractive job.
So who would your top candidate be for the Giants role? I
mean, it's difficult. I'd go for one of the Patriots duo. I'd go for Matt Patricia, the DC. He's interviewed for the Chargers, Browns, and I believe I've seen the last 2 years, but he hasn't gone for any of them. Josh McDaniels, I mean, is he over being snake bitten by his time in Denver? I think he's a very attractive one as well, either of those two. And then maybe if you go for someone from college, you look at someone like a John Harbaugh, who was very, very good at the 49ers, but the problem with John is that he wants to control the show, which I don't think maybe wouldn't go down too well in New York.
You know what? The number one guy for me would be Steve Spagnuolo. I mean, I think defensive-minded coaches have had a lot of success. I think that Spagnuolo understands the organization, understands where they were when they were great, and he can be the kind of coach to take them back to that place. Even though he has some tough stints with the St. Louis Rams, and things didn't really work out for him as well as when he was with the Giants, I think that they would give him another shot.
Okay, I think from my point of view, it's not so much who they're going to hire as a head coach, but who they hire as a GM. When I look at that, I think the obvious candidates, there are sort of about 5 obvious candidates, but top of my list is going to be Eric DeCosta, followed by Chris Polian. Eric DeCosta's been shadowing Ozzie Newsome in Baltimore. Look at what they've done, look at what they've built and it's perennial, that defense. They just seem to find the right players, they make the right fits. Chris Polian, he worked with his father Bill down in Indy. He's got to be an obvious candidate. He's at Jacksonville Player Personnel, and what the Giants like to do is have that GM looking after the personnel decisions, so he'd be an obvious candidate. Scott Pioli as well. He's obviously, he's been down in Atlanta. He was the Chiefs general manager. I think you can also look, John Dorsey down in Kansas City. He's been let go by Kansas City. I think he's out in June, so he's an available commodity. So he could be the one. But that's enough about the Giants. I mean, I'm staying in New York, looking at the game against Kansas City last week in the Jets. Marcus Peters. Now, I'm going to come to you specifically, Cease. Obviously, you played for Andy Reid. Marcus Peters threw a yellow hanky into the crowd, walked off, wasn't ejected, had to be brought back on sockless. I just wonder what a difficult decision that was for Andy Reid to suspend a player of Marcus Peters' stature. Bearing in mind they've got to play the Raiders this week, divisional rival, and they're all 6-6, all tied up.
Extremely hard. I mean, Peters is a pivotal part of that defense that's been struggling most of the year. They're coming down the stretch. Every game is that much more important right now. Obviously, he likes Peters as a young man and as a player, and he would hate to take something that young man who plays the game so well take it away from him. Hard for him. But from an integrity standpoint, from a message to everyone on the team, staying true to himself. You know, if you take him sitting down with his assistant head coach, Brad Childress, who was my offensive coordinator at the Philadelphia Eagles with Andy Reid, and my offensive coordinator at the Wisconsin Badgers, you know, when they sat down and they looked at the situation, they said, no, our culture is more important than anything else. The next guy has got to step up. And there's not a lot of coaches out there who would have sat down Peters at this time of the year. The only other coach maybe would be a Belichick, you know, because at the end of the day, no one person is above the team. And I think the main thing here, guys, is that it's not like it was a first time. You see what I mean? And I think that was a part that it didn't make it easy for him, but it made the decision the right decision. Because it's not like you just made one mistake and now, you know, okay, we'll give you a pass. No, you've made multiple mistakes throughout the year that has jeopardized the team, which says that on some level, your mind is not about the team and just about you. And you can't have that if you're going to grow a winning culture. And right now, culture is all about these last few games to give yourself a shot.
I'm not going to disagree with you necessarily, but I will just say that about Bill Belichick. Would he have suspended Rob Gronkowski, for instance, for next week against Pittsburgh if it came to that pivotal game? I'm not necessarily so sure. The Patriots may have got away with a 1 week suspension for Gronkowski, but that's a different matter. Just want to ask you if the Giants are done, Tom.
The Giants or the Chiefs?
Chiefs, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, the Giants are done, but the Chiefs, it's a difficult one because they've got 4 games to go. It's all to play for, and the AFC West is a beat-em-up division. You know, those teams routinely, they play each other, they beat each other up. They always split the season. It's quite hard. I mean, the thing about the Chiefs, they need to stop the run. I mean, they've been killed the last 5 weeks, and even just the last 2 games, I've got it here, the stats. Time of possession, they've been outgained up 43 minutes to 76 minutes the last 2 weeks. How on earth are you meant to keep a defense fresh, to pin their ears back, stop the run, stop the pass? They can't do it. The guys aren't getting enough blocks, and you know, Andy Reid's a very talented head coach, and I'm sure Cecil will know, but it's all to play for in that division, but for me, I can't see them getting in, unfortunately.
Well, they've got the 3 home games coming up. I mean, for me, if they split 2 of those 3, I mean, I know I've said I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but having looked at what their schedule is and gone into it a little bit more, I thought they played really hard against the Jets. But you know, they've got the Raiders at home, the Chargers at home, the Dolphins at home. You know, Chargers might give them a few problems, but if they beat the Raiders and beat the Dolphins, then they've got to go to the Broncos, who are in free fall anyway. So 3 tough division games they've got to play still. But
the X factor there, honestly, is that Peters is going to be out.
Yeah,
you know,
for one game.
X factor. I think all those games are winnable, and I'm not quick to say with a heavy heart. I'm going to say that they're not out of it. But you know, that's more of me always believing that, you know, a team has the ability, no matter what, to take it to the next level, even with a leader out. And I say that because if you remember, the Green Bay Packers won the Super Bowl by winning the last 4 games of the regular season, because if they lost, they wouldn't have made the playoffs, and then went on to win every game in the playoffs. So is it possible? Yes. And are there more examples of that? Yes. You never know when the next guy is going to step up and really ball out and really show he deserves to be there.
Okay, big part of the defense, as we say, so it's going to be a tough one for them. Baltimore Ravens, obviously they're in a wild card spot at the moment. They put up 44 points, surprisingly, on Detroit at the weekend. I just wonder, you know, we look at the Ravens and we think, yes, they're pretty much locked into a wild card spot now. Are they the biggest spoiler in the playoffs? Because I see them as a spoiler team. Who have you got, for instance? Who would you have as a spoiler
Oakland Raiders
team?
can definitely be a spoiler. I mean, look, the Oakland Raiders are 6-6. The Kansas City Chiefs are 6-6. They're still fighting for an opportunity, but they have a chance to knock some people off in the process of that fight. Now, their main focus as a team isn't to knock anyone out. It's to win every game moving forward. And do they have that chance? Both them and the Oakland Raiders, or them and the Kansas City Chiefs have that chance.
I don't even think they're going to get there, to be perfectly perfectly honest. I'll tell you for why. It's the schedule. They've got the Cowboys, the Eagles, and the Chargers still to play.
Yeah,
I mean, that's going to be tough.
Can it be a spoiler?
Can they be a spoiler? If they get to the playoffs, yes, they can be.
Oh, that's what you meant, in the
if they get the
playoffs.
yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Because there's spoiling going on in the regular season.
I know, absolutely.
You know what I mean? I mean, there's some teams out there who are going to fall, who are in line and control their own destiny, and they're going to falter to some teams that they shouldn't falter to. And those might be teams that don't even make it into the playoffs, which makes the soap opera that much better.
Exactly. Tom, who have you got as a spoiler?
Well, I've got the two teams in the South, but I agree with you. I think the Ravens are the spoiler team. I mean, they've got this far with Joe Flacco, let's be honest, playing abysmal. His vertical passing game, which is normally his strength, has been terrible. I know it was good against Detroit, but when you've got that defense that is averaging, only allowing 18 points a game, you've got the defense that's got the most turnovers in football, so you're putting the offense on a short field, and you've got the best kicker in the game, who is money from anything outside of 50. It's a win-win for them. I think if Joe Flacco, like he did against Detroit, if he can catch fire, maybe start to connect with some of his big receivers downfield, I mean, the Ravens could be a spoiler, and they've got a very good head coach who's been there and done it before, so there's no reason not to back them, I think. Interesting,
you've got two teams in the same division. I've gone exactly the same way. I've gone NFC South. I think Atlanta or Carolina. I mean, they're both, both big players, quarterback Matt Ryan, Cam Newton. They've both been there. They're both battle-hardened playoff teams in the last couple of years. If Atlanta can get into the playoffs, that's a difficulty with them. Carolina are in the driving seat at the moment, but I think Atlanta could be the spoiler for me if they get in. I hope they get in. Anyway, recent news, chaps, breaking in the last few days. Roger Goodell, $40 million a year, could work out to about $200 million. He's got a 5-year extension till 2023. 3 questions. Is he worth it? Does this mean that Jerry Jones lost? And can he lend me a $5?
I think that the big question also is, did he get all the little things that he asked for? Do you know?
The private jet.
The this and the that and the that and the this. The things. Did he get the things?
I don't know whether he got the things.
I mean, I guess the money. I mean, the things don't even matter, right? Because if you're getting $40 million and potentially $200 million over the course of the entire contract, he can get his own jet. All right, is he worth it? He's running a multi-billion-dollar league that is profitable, is growing, even though the ratings have gone down a little bit. He's done an unbelievable job of expanding the game internationally, and particularly in the United Kingdom, but bringing exposure all over the world. Is he worth it? You have to say yes. I mean, if he's the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, and that CEO is getting paid what he gets paid, well, I think he's worth it. Now, with that being said, it's quite interesting. It's quite interesting.
Tom, thoughts?
Well, it's difficult because, I mean, based on market value, look at the other major leagues in America, and the MLB, the commissioner's getting $19 million a year, and in the NBA, I think David Stern's only about $10 million a year, so, it's quadruple the NBA, but then the NFL is its own beast. It's massive.
Exactly.
It's an $8+ billion thing.
It's the market value for me, I think. You also got to look, I think they've done the right thing for continuity, because you've got a lot of big deals coming up around 2020. We've got the players deal. And we've got the TV deals as well. So it adds that he's been there, he's done it. It doesn't mean they've got to get somebody else up to speed in that extra year. So I think it's the right decision. But has Jerry Jones lost? Says to me like Arthur Blank.
I don't think he's lost. But
the Rooneys and and Robert Kraft and they run the show.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I think that as a collective unit of owners, I think when they look at Goodell, they say this man has displayed more strength for our league than any of our individual issues with things that he has done. And at the end of the day, all those owners, they want their money. They want their brands to grow. All right, they want the revenues to grow. They want the game expanded so that they can continue to grow the wealth that they have. So, with that being said, when they look at the strength he's displayed and how he's really kind of I'm not gonna say cleaned up the league a lot, but he's done some things that are very controversial in terms of his decisions, but players do know that this particular owner will not stand for any mess. And if there's mess, then you will be sitting down. And there won't be much discussion about that. So I think it's something to be said about that.
Exactly. Great chat, fellas. Pleasure to have you always. Tom Like from InsideZone.com. Brilliant to have you on the show. Nice debut. Well done. Have you back soon. Cecil Martin, well done. Nice to see you again, as always. Great chat. Great chat. That's been the Sports Heads. That's been the playbook for this week, week 14. Hope you enjoy it. Hope you enjoyed the shows. Keep coming back, and we'll see you soon.
RedZoneSports.bet, the British home of American sports.